She once captivated all of Hollywood with just a smile. But what turned a beauty icon like Sharon Tate into the centre of America's most shocking crime in 1969? At only 26 years old, she became a victim of the infamous Manson murders. Yet behind the name Sharon Tate was a journey filled with ambition, love, and dreams that never had the chance to fully bloom. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea, or just water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. She was not only the wife of director Roman Polanski, not only a talented actress on the rise, but also a woman known for her kindness and warmth. Their lavish wedding was once compared to a Hollywood fairy tale, but even within that fairy tale lay hidden dark secrets. So what were those secrets? Sharon Tate was born in Dallas, Texas in 1943, carrying a unique destiny from her earliest days. The daughter of Colonel Paul, James Tate, and Doris Tate, she grew up in a military family that moved frequently following her father's assignments. By the time she was 16, Sharon had already lived in 6 different cities and attended multiple high schools, making her childhood one of constant change. Her family remembered her as a shy, quiet girl who struggled to form lasting friendships. Yet, the moment she stepped on stage, Sharon transformed, radiant, confident, and captivating. From an early age, Sharon displayed her natural beauty. At just 6 months old, she entered the Miss Tiny Todd of Dallas Beauty Contest and unexpectedly won. That small moment seemed like a foreshadowing of the glamour that would later define her life. As she grew, still shy, but becoming more aware of her striking looks, Sharon began to embrace her uniqueness. In 1959, she won 5 beauty pageants in a row, an impressive feat for any young girl. Each crown brought her not only recognition, but also the confidence to step further into the spotlight. By 1960, the Tate family had relocated to Verona, Italy. This move unexpectedly opened new doors for Sharon. There, she became something of a local star when her picture graced the cover of the military magazine Stars and Stripes. Her fresh, radiant charm drew admiration from both the local community and fellow military families. For the first time, Sharon began forming genuine friendships as she connected with classmates who also shared the experience of living far from home. At her American high school in Italy, Sharon thrived both academically and socially. She joined the basketball team, became a cheerleader, performed baton twirling, served on the student council, and even played Juliet in a school production of Romeo and Juliet. Her grace and charisma earned her the title of prom queen, a clear testament to her growing magnetism. Though her quiet demeanour sometimes led others to mistake her for aloof, those who truly knew Sharon described her as warm, sincere, and deeply kind. The kind of person whose presence always made others feel at ease. In 1961, Sharon Tate graduated from high school, closing the chapter of her youth filled with unforgettable experiences. It was during her time in Italy that a burning passion for acting took hold of her. One day, after hearing that the film Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man was being shot nearby, Sharon and her friends decided to try their luck at landing extra roles. To their surprise, they succeeded. No one could have imagined that such a small, seemingly insignificant role would lead Sharon Tate down a path both sweet and turbulent. On set, amid the crowd of background actors, Richard Beymer, the handsome rising star, caught sight of Sharon. With just one glance, he rushed over to introduce himself and soon turned the shy young woman into his public girlfriend throughout the filming. Their whirlwind romance behind the scenes sparked envy among many on set. But the bigger plot twist came when Beymer whispered in Sharon's ear that she shouldn't remain in the background forever. She should pursue Hollywood seriously. Yet, the bitter irony began right there. Sharon Tate, the woman who made men fall at her feet, never truly believed she was beautiful. She once confessed, "My appeal, whatever it might be, isn't obvious, at least not to me." In other words, While the world saw her as irresistibly alluring, Sharon herself felt painfully ordinary. After her experience on Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man, she began chasing her artistic dream, but reality proved harsher than expected. For an entire year, she drifted between background roles, failed screen tests, and even a trip back to the US to find work, all ending in disappointment. Tragedy struck closer to home when her mother, Doris, fell into despair, worrying about her daughter alone in a foreign land. Sharon put her dreams on hold and returned to Italy to care for her. But fate wasn't done playing games. In 1962, the family moved back to America, and Sharon formally set her sights on Los Angeles, the heart of Hollywood. There, she managed to secure appearances in popular TV series like The Beverly Hillbillies and Mr. Ed. Her career seemed ready to ignite, but once again her lack of confidence shut doors. A golden chance at Petticoat Junction slipped away when her agent, Martin Ranshoff, declared Sharon too timid for a lead role. And this was where the tabloid stories heated up. Martin Ranshoff wasn't just her manager, he was almost her jailer. He bluntly blocked Sharon from high-profile projects like The Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen, insisting she wasn't ready. But who was truly unprepared? Sharon or the powerful men of Hollywood, terrified of losing control over such a radiant star? Despite being held back, Sharon's glow was too bright to be hidden. By 1965, Ranshoff finally had to yield, granting her the lead role in the supernatural thriller Eye of the Devil. Determined to prove her worth, Sharon even travelled to London to study with Wiccan leaders to embody her role with absolute authenticity. Yet, director J. Lee Thompson still coldly drafted a backup plan to fire her within 2 weeks if she failed. As Tate's acting talent began to gain recognition, love also entered her life, setting her heart ablaze. In 1963, she met Philippe Fork, a handsome, charming French actor. Their romance blossomed quickly, and within just a few months of dating, they were engaged. Yet despite its passion, the relationship was far from peaceful. Constant arguments and the pressures of career and ambition strained their bond. By 1964, they broke up, leaving Tate with a harsh lesson about love and sacrifice. Soon after, fate led Tate to Jay. Sebring, a former sailor who had become a celebrity hairstylist in Hollywood. Sebring adored Tate, but her feelings for him were not as strong as his devotion to her. When Sebring proposed, Tate refused. She recalled the painful experiences with 4 Kelvins and decided that her career had to come first. That firm decision showed how much Tate had matured after the wounds of her first romance. By the late 1960s, Tate met Roman Polanski, a young but famously perfectionist, sometimes even harsh director. Their connection was not love at first sight. Polanski initially thought Tate was too naive and unfit for the artistic standards he demanded. He even considered giving the lead role in The 3 Fearless Vampire Killers to actress Jill Street John. But after meeting Tate, he changed his mind on the condition that she wear a red wig throughout the film. Tate agreed. On set, Polanski relentlessly tested Tate. In one scene, he made her perform up to 70 takes before he was satisfied. Yet, through this grueling process, Tate revealed her resilience and natural charm. She not only proved her talent, but also won the heart of the exacting director. Polanski, despite his severity, came to recognise that she was more than just a beautiful face. She was a true artist. And in the course of filming, the two transformed from distant collaborators into passionate lovers. Sharon Tate once hoped that Don't Make Waves would open new doors for her, but the film ultimately left her bitterly disappointed. In the movie, her character appeared almost exclusively in a bikini, a costume choice that made Tate resentfully refer to herself as the little sex symbol. After the box office failure, she candidly told the press, "It was a terrible movie." That honest yet daring statement revealed a young woman already aware of the harsh path she was treading in Hollywood. Unlike many actors who dreamed of landing Shakespearean roles, Tate had a very clear-eyed understanding of her own limits. She once admitted, "I don't fool myself. I can't imagine myself doing Shakespeare." Instead, she set her sights on becoming a charming comedic actress, following in the footsteps of the legendary Carole Lombard. With that vision, Tate actively sought out opportunities in comedy, though she never quite managed to escape the sex symbol label imposed by the media. At the same time, she held deep admiration for classic actresses like Faye Dunaway and especially Catherine Deneuve. Tate once expressed her dream of becoming the American Catherine Deneuve, drawn to the way Deneuve chose roles that were elegant, sensual, and intellectually layered. Sadly, fate never allowed Tate the chance to fully pursue that ambition. Roman Polanski, her husband and director, had wanted to cast her as the lead in Rosemary's Baby, but hesitated, fearing accusations of favoritism. No one else suggested her name, and the role went to Mia Farrow. Tate, however, still contributed behind the scenes, offering creative input on several key moments, including the film's infamous demonic conception sequence. Tate's career was also marked by bitter setbacks. On the set of Don't Make Waves, she nearly lost her life during a stunt when her parachute deployed at the wrong time, trapping her under the fabric in the pool. She managed to free herself before drowning, but the incident left a haunting memory. She also lost a part in The Sandpiper, not because of her talent, but due to Elizabeth Taylor's notorious jealousy. Taylor allegedly refused to have a young, beautiful newcomer around, even for a brief role. Critical responses to her films remained uneven. Her performance in Eye of the Devil drew mixed reviews. Some praised her allure, while others found her lacking in depth. The Wrecking Crew was a commercial flop, and Valley of the Dolls faced harsh criticism, though ironically it was the very film that earned Tate a Golden Globe nomination for New Star of the Year. She didn't win, but the nomination was a vital milestone, suggesting that Tate's career might have been ready to take flight. In early 1968, just days before her 25th birthday, Sharon Tate married director Roman Polanski. Their wedding was hailed as a Hollywood fairy tale. Yet, behind the glittering facade, the marriage was far more complicated. Polanski constantly urged Sharon to pursue her film career, but many friends later remarked that his encouragement often crossed into control. Tate once considered leaving her longtime manager, Martin Ranthoff, but hesitation and pressure from her husband left her torn. Polanski wanted a free-spirited wife, not a demure homemaker. His cold words often pushed Sharon into a state of confusion, caught between her desire to nurture a family and her fear of losing her career. Even so, Sharon embraced the youthful, liberating spirit of the 1960. Their home became a gathering spot for artists and close friends ranging from Mia Farrow and Peter Fonda to Jim Morrison of The Doors. Sharon loved this openness, welcoming both old friends and strangers alike. She lived true to the spirit of a generation hungry for freedom and change. Decades later, director Quentin Tarantino reimagined a slice of her life in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Margot Robbie portraying Tate. The film offered a dreamlike version of her story, where Sharon remained smiling, happy, and free to chase her dreams, a vision that reality so cruel stole away. In 1969, while pregnant, Sharon Tate and Polanski moved into the house at 1050 Cello Drive in Benedict Canyon. The property had once belonged to music producer Terry Melcher and actress Candice Bergen. Sharon called it their love house, filled with hopes for the future. But a cruel twist of fate awaited there. Charles Manson, harbouring a grudge against Melcher for refusing to sign him to a recording contract, chose that very house to exact his revenge, regardless of the fact that Melcher no longer lived there. To him, the house symbolised rejection, and Sharon Tate became an innocent victim. On the night of August 9th, 1969, tragedy struck. Sharon, 8 months pregnant, was at home with friends Abigail Foulier, Wojtek Fowski, Steve Parent, and Jay Sebring, her former lover who had remained a loyal friend. Members of the Manson family broke in and brutally murdered them all. Sharon's desperate pleas for the life of her unborn child were ignored. The savage crime shook America to its core, overshadowed Hollywood's glamour, and spread fear everywhere. Polanski, who was in Europe at the time, was plunged into unspeakable grief. The case quickly became a worldwide media sensation. the trial of Charles Manson and his followers drew global attention. At the time, the death penalty was still in effect in California, and the sentences handed down reflected the sheer brutality of the crimes. In 1971, the judge sentenced all the defendants to death. However, just a year later, California abolished the death penalty, and the sentences were commuted to life in prison. One of them died in prison in 2009, while Manson himself died behind bars in November 2017. The remaining convicts continued to serve life sentences, but repeatedly petitioned for parole over the years. Each time, Sharon's father, Colonel Paul Tate, was there. He never missed a hearing, firmly opposing any release. He once said with cold but heartbreaking conviction, that man should never, never, never be released into society. For him, the pain was not only in losing his daughter, but also in the unbearable reality that he had to clean up the crime scene himself, confronted with the savage destruction inflicted on the child he so deeply loved. The house at 150 Cello Drive, where the massacre took place, later became a chilling symbol. In 1994, it was demolished, and the address was changed to erase its traces. But memories cannot be erased. People say the new mansion built on that land was extremely difficult to sell, as if the blood curse still hovered around it. Few know that just weeks before her murder, Sharon and her family had gathered to watch Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. On that joyful evening, her mother, Doris, gave her a wooden rocking chair for the baby she was expecting, the very same chair Doris once used to raise Sharon. Death robbed Sharon of the chance to be a mother, but the bond of motherhood endured. On her tombstone, beneath the name Sharon Tate, is the name of her unborn child, Paul Richard Polanski. Sharon's father, with over 20 years of experience in military intelligence, even conducted his own investigation, going so far as to disguise himself as a hippie to follow leads. Yet, every effort led to a dead end. For him, justice was not only in the courtroom verdict, but also in uncovering the truth, something he longed for to clear his daughter's name. Meanwhile, Sharon's rising film career was tainted by tragedy. The movie Valley of the Dolls, now considered a classic, was once a nightmare for her. She admitted to Polanski that she disliked both the original novel and the screenplay. On set, the relationships among the actresses were at first close, but director Mark Robson turned the experience bitter. He frequently scolded and even humiliated Sharon in front of everyone. Her co-star, Patty Duke, later admitted that Robson treated Sharon as if she were a fool, when in reality, the opposite was true. The marriage of Sharon and Roman Polanski, outwardly a Hollywood fairy tale, was in reality full of cracks. Polanski was openly unfaithful, dismissing Sharon's pain as merely her big problem. To her friends, Sharon bitterly confessed, "We have a good arrangement. Roman lies to me and I pretend to believe him." Yet when tragedy struck, Polanski was utterly devastated. Returning from Europe, he gave away much of his wealth in an attempt to escape the painful memories, but forgetting was impossible. Later, he would still call those few short years with Sharon the happiest of his life. His 1979 film Tess was born from this grief. It was the last book Sharon had read, and she once suggested it would make a wonderful film adaptation. Polanski honoured her wish, dedicating the film simply for Sharon. While Paul Tate quietly protected his daughter's dignity, Doris Tate stepped into the spotlight. After Sharon's death, she transformed grief into action, becoming a tireless advocate for victims' rights and voices. In 1992, President George H.W. Bush formally recognised Doris's contributions, but she passed away soon after. Her work was carried on by her youngest daughter Patty, and later by Deborah after Patty's death from cancer in 2000. The Tate family's fight against evil, therefore, has never ceased. Sharon Tate left this world at just 26, 8.5 months pregnant, with unfinished dreams of family life and a promising career ahead. Yet what remains is not only the memory of a tragic death, but also a legacy of resilience, of love cut short yet eternal, and of a film world that once had a star who burned too briefly but will never be forgotten.